Okay, we're back with more Okage Shadow King, which is a video game. That cannot be denied. You now have access to floor B2. So I can't even get the grading for that yet. Oh, maybe I can get it through here. Okay. Alright, are you ready for killing urns? I hope you hate urns, because we're going to be killing a bunch of them. That's a lot of enemies. Plus, sometimes this game just throws a fucking shitload of enemies at you like that. It's like, whatever, you've got more of a base kind of guy. This is a video game rather than a fever dream? It's a really good question. Base is just strictly better, right? Flame. Amazing. Incredible gap in efficacy of my abilities there. Well, I have one attack that does 2 damage to everyone, one attack that does 170 damage to everyone, and they both have comparable costs. This is extremely bad. I mean, looks like it's not that bad. Maintain that I think if this game had come out 10 years later, it may have been a visual novel instead, in which case I think it would work much better. Okay. Do I not get... Alright, it's fine. This is fine. It's fine. I still love the ridiculously long, like, level up fanfare, which sometimes triggers 3 times in a row if multiple people level up at the same time. I'm mostly doing well on, like, handhelds, though. Are there any big visual novels on the PS2? There's a lot of weird things about this game, but I feel like one of the biggest ones is, like, how badly English text looks in an area that was clearly reserved for information-dense Japanese characters, right? The only game I can think of that's worse is, in that specific regard, is probably Breath of Fire 1, where they only had like 4 characters to write everything. Big nuts. They went to all that trouble for Earthbound to make a unique scripting language just to have more space for English characters. Hooray! killed that urn. I love the experience of realizing that every dungeon is going to be kill 4 urns, right? You do the first dungeon, you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting little idea for this level. And you're like, wait, that's every level. Oh no. Yeah, that's the Shadow King. This game's premise is all about, like, it's like a comedy game about... his name isn't Satan, his name is Stan. And he wants to be the #1 great evil king, like, you know, Japanese... The subtitle for Ganon, Evil King Ganondorf. So you keep running into all these different evil kings in the game, like... There's the pop star Evil King and the sewer Evil King. And Stan is like possessing the protagonist, Ari. It's pretty silly, and the silliness generally works, I think. Although it's pretty poorly localized. I've heard this game compared to Earthbound, which is probably fair tonally. I bet it works better as an Earthbound-like game in the original Japanese. There's some like really specific jokes, like sometimes you'll get into an encounter and Stan will give you some dialogue that lets you skip the battle, but it's like completely incomprehensible in English. It'll be like referencing a you know, Japanese poem or something else from pop culture that just almost feels like they fed it through Google Translate in some cases. I think the Blue Dragon devs and the Okage Shadow King devs are both inspired by stands from JoJo. It's in everything. It's in Final Fantasy 12 too. Something I am super fucking into. It's people having ghosts coming out of their back. It's like the Japanese equivalent of like every movie having a bullet time sequence after The Matrix came out in 1999. Yeah, no worries. I only started getting into it somewhat recently. Persona is the same. Persona is much more over-the-top JoJo inspired. In D&D now, right? That's basically JoJo's stand. Alright. Vase fans unite. Fuck these urns up. Shit. I like the idea of stands a lot from like a ridiculous storytelling perspective. It's not super dissimilar from like superhero fiction, but because they're not like mutants, and you don't have to come up with some reason why they can do the shit they do. You can have stands with really stupid powers that are extremely specific. I guess you get some of that if you get a little bit too deep into superhero fiction, but there's so much in here. a stand that turns any refrigerator in a 20-mile radius into a bomb, but that's all it does. Only refrigerators. First of all, how dare you? Second of all, what gives you the right? There's a lot that's baffling about Okage Shadow King, but the battle system where it's kind of ATB, but the battle freezes when someone's in mid-animation and their attacks have like multiple hits. And like technically you can kill them sometimes while they're in the middle of swinging. Like, it's a cool idea, but it just doesn't matter in the game's combat math in any way. It just makes you think, oh, why did my attack only do 1 damage? Like, oh, okay, it's because it did 1 damage in the first hit of the combo, and then Ari's turn came up, pausing the rest of the combo, and the combo's gonna finish after I input a command for Ari. I think that feeling of like a surprising or unnecessary amount of effort into a system that ultimately doesn't matter, it cracks me up when it happens in video games. You might not be able to compete with the actual stands in some cases. There's some pretty dumb ones. Oh, nice, Leon. I haven't read the rules for it. Do you get some freedom as to like what you can do with it? I feel like stands in a tabletop RPG would be better in a system where you like define some of its properties and then tag those properties and argue to the DM why they should give you an advantage, right? Like that's Fate. Is that? I feel like something like D&D is probably a little more structured. I'm sure someone has made a JoJo tabletop game, but that's probably the way I would do it, is you would design your stand and then you would assign like 10 adjectives to it. To me, that's like the fundamental fun of JoJo, is seeing them come up with the dumbest ways to use their stupid stands to solve problems. Okay, there's no flexibility in the stand, gotcha. It just looks like a stand, or evokes that visually. I'm gonna try to use this, actually. I want to get into this fight in the first place. I love that Ari gets the decoy ability, all enemies attack you. This is interesting, actually. Does the word decoy in Japanese, or the word that gets translated to decoy in English, imply some kind of taunting going on? I mean, I guess it makes sense. I've seen a couple games now that will use decoy to mean not, I'm going to make a duplicate of myself that then I'm going to trick the enemy into going after, but to like draw attention to myself, basically. Interesting. Dream your patron is a stand, yeah. Alright, let's just use that. Hey, hunga hey. Oh man, getting into a fight in this game is so brutal for keeping track of where you are. I think it changes your camera direction too when it happens. I think there's one more of these, if I can find it. I should have been paying attention to which ones I'd already hit. Shit. I can't rotate the camera to quite make out. There's the last one. Okay. It's the south one, it looks like. Eya Hunga Hey. I think this song is one of the best parts of this game. I'll do it, single target guy. Yeah. That's something that I liked about 4th edition. 4th edition was very wireframey. These are just rules. You can apply, you know, whatever flavor you want on top of it. What matters is that this is an attack that does 1d6 damage in a burst 1, right? It doesn't matter if that's a fireball or yelling really loudly or right. You know, sometimes the damage typing matters, but it sounds fun, man. Final urn, let's go. There's a lot of things that irk me in JRPGs, but I think one of my least favorite things is when you have a game over when one party member dies. Like, when resurrection abilities exist, and other party members have access to them, you know? The original sin of Persona 3? I don't know. That sounds awesome, Leon. Persona 3, I have to think about it. It might be one of the first games I played that I started to think about this idea of cursed problems. It was nice to watch that GDC talk, to hear somebody in the industry, like, give a term to it, but I remember just being so innately frustrated at the idea that your ally AI is terrible and you can't count on them to do anything. So you basically always have to build your main character as a healer because only the MC you can trust to heal everyone successfully. It's where the design fantasy of, oh, you don't control your party members because the game's about friendship and you trust them to do the right thing. It's just incompatible with the way the rest of the game is designed. There's a part of this song that sounds almost indistinguishable from my phone buzzing. Like, just outside my headphones. Oh man, more urns. Okay, hold on. You don't like the wireframing in 4th edition? It's okay to be wrong, Ronan. Now they're in the corners, so it's easier to get to. Yeah, there you go. I feel like if I could assign them gambits, it would be less terrible, like Final Fantasy 12. Because, like, the things I want them to do aren't terribly complicated. Heal at this threshold, res at this threshold, right? Buff when this buff isn't up. I feel like you wouldn't even have to train it that much. Like, that's part of what frustrated me about it, is like, this isn't even... I feel like every player is going to cast Medea on this turn in this combat, right? Like, there's... The game is structured in such a way that there's basically no other option. I feel that way about some of the later Dragon Quest games, too. I feel like maybe that's the problem, though, is that if you tune the AI characters too well, it kind of reveals that there's not really a lot of depth to the combat. If the computer can do it way better than the player. You almost need them to be stupid so that the player can feel smart in making good decisions. Or he was based on the kind of same idea they had with Magic the Gathering of like, okay, have some simple rules and then everything else is an exception to those rules. So usually a class would have some kind of core mechanic that used a minor action that was breaking the rules in some way, and then the rest of their abilities followed, you know, predictable formulaic wireframes. But I kind of enjoyed that. I think it gave me freedom as a DM to tell my players, hey, this attack you have called Magic Missile, I don't actually care what it is, like, flavor-wise. All that matters is that it does 1d4 damage and it can't miss. So if you want to, like, tell me what that looks like and what that means to you and what the name of the spell is and how it appears in the game world, you have basically unlimited freedom to do that. Yeah, the tactical RPG component is the part that I like the best. I think skills are kind of a cursed problem, honestly, in tabletop games. At least the way D&D tries to solve it. You end up getting all of this, like, oh, what's the word? Bountiful nut, nice. You get this, like, folk wisdom from career dungeon masters about when to ignore the rules as written for skill checks, which is cool. Like, I agree, like, don't ask to do a skill check if the answer is trivial or there are no consequences for failure. But I think that that's, from a rules perspective, not super elegant, right? It's kind of admitting that there's a problem with adjudicating everything in this way. You have this weird, like, permanent tension in tabletop rule sets between, like, the rules themselves and, like, folk wisdom about when best to ignore those rules for the sake of, like, expediency or reduced hassle. Basically, we need to build perfect AI dungeon masters. Dungeon master assistants. So the human can still do all the creative stuff, and all that stuff can get adjudicated instantly. I think that it started as folk wisdom and it's evolved into being baked directly into the rules, right? Like, absolutely every Dungeon Master guide I've read since 4th edition effectively says that. That's smart, Zayt. I like that approach. It's good wisdom. I don't mean to shit on it. Like, you know, I've gone through the process of being a middle school DM and asking everybody to roll for everything and being confused when they fail their check, and then there's no reason they couldn't just attempt it again until they succeed, and just making them roll the d20 over and over until I just kind of naturally realize, wait, this is stupid, let's not do it this way, you know? I think I see the tension as being between, you know, GM fiat and predictable rules that behave in a predictable way as just a system, right? And you want to like balance that tension as best as possible, because you don't want to just get into a cops and robbers, I shot you, no you didn't, I have super armor situation, right? You want them to believe that there's a system here that's informing the events. That comes down to that willing suspension of nihilism thing I keep talking about, that like when you play a game you have to be willing to temporarily pretend that the game matters and that like playing it matters. And that bubble can get popped pretty easily in tabletop if your GM reveals that they've been fudging rolls the whole time, right? So it's not that fudging rolls is bad. I certainly do it. But you have to be very careful to like not lift that veil. Never allow an instant death crit home roll, also allowing your players to see tie rolls. Someone will die twice in one session without you being able to fudge rolls. Don't stack those two things, yeah. I think this is the longest earned dungeon so far. Wait, is this just a save point? Oh no, it's a warp point. Oh no, okay. I might not get an episode title on this one. This just might be called Killing 20 White Urns. Okay. Let's try to scare them all away, shall we? I'll try to think more on articulating this. I'm not trying to present it as like a value judgment about tabletop RPGs and what's good and what's bad, or that like the existence of folk wisdom to make the games playable is like a fundamentally bad thing. You know, it's obviously it's cool to get that experience and realize what you should and shouldn't do. I have this weird feeling of like the elegance of rules, how much they're able to solve all situations from a purely math perspective without requiring a human to make a judgment call, right? And I will happily play a game that's all about GM judgment calls, and it's basically just like fiasco comedy improv, right? But if you keep stripping those things away, you stop having a game and you start having, you know, an improv session. It's like the distinction for me between like a game and a toy. Sometimes there are games where there's a very blurry line there, right? Yeah. Like if I say this feels more like a toy than a game, I tend to not mean that as an insult. It's just like, well, I like playing with toys, could be fun, right? That's fine. Or this product has toy-like features. I feel that way about something like Minecraft, right? Or at least Minecraft as I experienced it back around the end of Alpha, like right when the Nether update came out, or the original release of the Nether, I guess we should say. I think now it's significantly more gamey, or it has a track that's more gamey if you want it in the survival mode. Hey, that's on the voting spreadsheet, you should vote for it. You should play on the community Minecraft server and build a bunch of stuff, because I'll be starting my spawn point super far from where everybody's built stuff, and then like exploring it like the ruins of civilization whenever it gets on the schedule here. I hate when that misses. Oh, it didn't miss. The thing happened again where the damage hadn't finished resolving when her turn came up. So actually all of them are dead except for one. This game cracks me up. Angel Charm. You just never get equipable drops here. Hey, speaking of only 4 characters, weapon, equip, and guard. Angel Charm. Heavenly Intervention. Cures Death Curse. Okay, well that sounds good. I like having our Death Curses cured. Oh, hey! I didn't realize that Ari T-poses when you come out of combat. Oh, that's funny. I have to watch out for it now. I don't know why T-poses are so fucking funny to me. I don't know, I guess it's just like the kind of glitches that occur when a character reverts to them. Milky Urn. That's gonna be the episode title, I think. Unless if we get to a boss on the next floor. I could see there being one more floor of this. T-pose leper. He does T-pose. It's for a split second, right when you get out of combat. So if you manage to go into a menu very quickly, you can kind of freeze a minute for a moment. Yeah, I probably want to hit... Oh my god. These dungeons are so easy to get lost in. I need to hit more of these green... Oh, I didn't get to another urn here. Yeah, that makes sense, Retizian. Again, the kind of thing that would work if you had like a perfect artificial intelligence DM assistant. Andrea has been joining us for Gloomhaven, and the digital version of Gloomhaven on Steam. And like, Gloomhaven is the anti-Andrea game if we were playing it in board game form. Like the idea of having to sit there and figure out where all the monsters go and what they do on their turn, and resolving modifiers and say, wait, do you technically count as being poisoned there? Does that mean you take 1 extra damage? Like, I can feel her screaming at that. But the fact that the digital version just resolves all of it instantly, and it's like super her shit, you know? I really hope that it's popular and makes a bunch of money and gets another bunch of other people's notice. It looks like it has a modding and rule modification system, so you can make your own campaign in it too, which I might want to mess around with at some point. Yeah, Star Wars and Star Trek get elaborate, convoluted explanations for everything. I would agree that sometimes it's better to just not explain stuff, and sometimes, like, the ability of the DM to make a judgment call is very strong indeed and well suited for enjoyable gameplay. It's part of what draws people to tabletop in the first place as a distinct product from video games, the feeling that if I want to do something cool that the rules couldn't possibly have accounted for, that my cool human being DM could just say, yeah, sure, that sounds cool, go for it, right? Like, it seems uniquely human to be able to say yes. Very difficult to imbue in any kind of computer, in any kind of future, right? GURPS vehicle and spaceship design requires advanced college math to construct shit. Wow. I think the setup times and accounting and just your attention burden is the reason why we've transitioned to this kind of like folk wisdom focused model of rule sets. Because yeah, you know, have some really cool rules that cover every situation, but Jesus Christ, is it a pain in the ass to adjudicate them. So finally divided, you'd end up unable to do something you could probably handle. Yeah. Why do so many RPGs have encumbrance rules? The ratio of effect to effort is close to 0. It's a really good way to put it. Completely agree. There's a lot of little systems like that, like don't ever track food and drink. Unless if you have made a system that is specifically and only about tracking food and drink, or you're doing a like sub-adventure in your game that's about starving in the desert, just, it's fine. Don't think about it. I think going that route, like doubling down on the whole exception-based rule systems, where our base rules are simple, but whenever we want to deal with something specific, we have really complicated rules that are exceptions to the simple rules, right? I know that sometimes you'll get pre-published D&D adventures that you'll say like, hey, in this one, you know, they have to deal with freezing cold, so here, we made up some rules for how to deal with freezing cold and to manage their warmth meter or whatever. Like, I like that stuff. I might die in this fight due to being chain put to sleep here. Try to top off RA before I die. Right. Carry 4-7 units of load. You don't need to specify what you're carrying until you use it, so it's a Schrodinger's utility belt. Yeah, I really like that. I like being able to say, oh, I have a grappling hook, right? And just declare that you had one in this Schrodinger slot. And now it becomes a grappling hook and is taking up a space. Because the actual... It's another cursed problem where the fantasy of like going to the store and buying 50 feet of hemp rope and oil lantern or whatever the fuck and actually needing it in the adventure, it's just not going to happen most of the time. Sometimes it leads to some fun shit where you like try to make your shit work. I remember I ran a 4th edition game at the job I worked at with my friend Kat. So we had a bunch of people who had never done tabletop before with us. And this one guy was like in his 50s, and it always cracked me up that every time we got into an encounter, he would like review his list of items and be like, I've got a jug of ale. I've got an oil lantern. It's like, that's cool, dude. Do you want to do anything with it? He's like, I don't know. Can I? have this jug of ale. This character has a unique menu of items they can have, so Heavy can pull out a big two-handed weapon with a sneak peek hands. I like that. That's cool. None. Honestly, I think if you're gonna be in the beanbag chairs and no dice, like improv realm of tabletop, Fate seems to be one of my favorite systems because I like the idea that it's just like we're gonna double down on the fact that this is all GM fiat, right? And that you're basically just arguing for why something should apply, and you're encouraged to like make your abilities as flavorful as possible. To basically make the arguments more entertaining. Am I missing an urn? Oh no. I think I am. Which one? Oh god, that one. Okay, how do I get to it? It would be nice if the different green platforms were different colors, maybe. Okay, at least they're like shiny if you haven't stepped on them already. That helps a little bit. God. Okay. Old RPGs had a weird idea that players are rebels against the GM. Yeah, I think that that's basically my number one rule whenever I do like a session zeros for a new tabletop game, is establishing that there should be no antagonism between the GM and the players, that we're like collaborative storytellers and that I'm as interested in them and like making cool things happen. I've had that be bad on both ends. I've had GMs that are like hostile to the players, and I've had players that are hostile to the GM. I think there's a competitive rivalry thing of like, I would love to try to outsmart him or her, right? That's fun. Yeah, Fate works because it assumes that you're already playing cooperatively. I agree. It's funny around. Really lucky I haven't randomly gotten wrecked by a random battle here. Lost a ton of progress. Question about this dungeon theme. Great dungeon theme or greatest dungeon theme? Watch there be a save on the bottom floor anyway. At least this one's structured in such a way that I can get back to the save point pretty easily without having to backtrack through enemies. Some of the earlier dungeons required quite a bit of... the song... It's like, it's a very light... It sounds like it's buzzing outside my headphones, right? We played a game a little while ago that had a sound that sounded like someone was knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell. I forget which one it was. Alright, is it boss time? We got one more round of urns. That makes sense. more urns. Yeah, I wish I could be a fly on the wall in the development of this game. I wonder if they just, like, spent too much time on something. The urn thing isn't even, like, integrated into the story. It's not like they're like, oh yeah, you gotta go to all these places, and the urns are what are blocking the grates, and they represent the dark magic that Stan is trying to collect. It's just like, the first dungeon is that way, and then they're like, fuck it, every other dungeon's going to be that. And we're just gonna not comment on it and hope you don't notice. It's like the doorbell. Right. We got about 15 minutes left. I don't know if I want to bet money that this is the last floor with urns. There might be another one. Enough points in the relevant flavor of bullshittery, and are you willing to face the consequences of your actions? Urn run. Earn all these urns. This room is significantly less complicated than the previous floor. Previous floor had all these, like, bridge panels all over the place that you had to step on in a very specific order. This dungeon feels like, Propagable used to always put on this Mario Maker level. I need to look up what it was called. But it was this, like, intentionally miserable level where, like, you imagine the stage, you would just have this really, really long path that was like one block high, so you had a block above you and a block below you, and you had to like run and then zigzag all the way around. And like the level had the max time limit, and if you didn't move exactly frame perfectly, you would run out of time every time. It's like the ultimate time waster. It's great. I don't think I ever beat it. I think she would put it on subblock like every week. Or not subblock, but she would submit it as a level for Mario Maker every week. It got to the point where I like memorized the code. We established last episode that those regular nuts are basically trivial to buy at a shop. I can get an infinite number of them very easily. The Mario Maker 1 level that explained how the timer doesn't run when you're going inside doors and pipes and created time traps to force you to constantly go in and out of doors. It's 10 hours long. That's funny. This guy's got a cool name, Perpetual Mudman. Sounds like that'd be a cool band name. How strong are these guys? They're hitting you like a truck all of a sudden and they're not dying. Oh god. Glad I Force them to run away. I think the enemies in this game are balanced by a cat walking on a keyboard. When they're like coding in what their stats need to be. Ordinary bottle. It's accessible from the other side, isn't it? Can't cross there, okay. I think if this game was like full of RPG commentary and was like laughing at you for having to do these urn dungeons, I think it would actually be funny to me, and I would like. Well, it is funny to me, but I guess I don't believe that the game is doing this on purpose to make fun of you. I think that it's like they ran out of money to make the product they originally envisioned, right? But it just occurred to me. I was thinking about that with like Pathologic recently. Like, how much of this is on purpose? Yeah, they're trying to fit information that would have been fit pretty cleanly into Japanese characters, right? And not take up a ton of space. But I love that like the word information at the bottom is one, completely unnecessary, and two, there's like a line cutting off the bottom of all the letters. The little history word in the bottom right, there's that big section for history. This game is, there's nothing like it. It's incredible. We had a discussion recently on like baffling games and how it's acceptable to add baffling games to the voting spreadsheet even if they don't meet the usual Metacritic threshold. And I would say this one would definitely be that kind of thing where it's like weird in an interesting way instead of a boring way like Superman 64 or something similar. I'll do a zone transition really quick. I'll try to get that item in the northern room. Alright, do I feel lucky? Do I think that there's a B6 that has more urns in it? I feel like this dungeon's gonna become the like Family Guy joke where he like hurts his knee. And he keeps grabbing it and going for like uncomfortably long. Like if this dungeon is like 20 floors long, I will give credit to Okage Shadow King. It'll become brilliant then. If it's just slightly too long, it won't be funny. Yeah, exactly. Weird kerning problems. I guess that's really the question. Is Okage Shadow King an Andy Kaufman-esque like joke that's like intentionally fucking with the player? Because if it is, it's fucking genius. All right, do we get more urns? We get more urns. Oh. Now it's coming around. I would love it if, like, for no reason, 12 hours of the 30-hour How Long to Beat are this dungeon. I think stepping on this despawns enemies, yeah. Picture that scene in Man on the Moon where Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman is like, people will think their TVs are broken. This is very interesting. Depending on what happens with this dungeon, I might be converting to an Okage Shadow King stand. I hope it keeps going. It's already like well past the point where there've been too many of these floors. So if they choose one to stop on, it's gonna have to be like floor 7 or floor 10 or right, like some quote-unquote important number. No, not that stand. I think it's earnest. I think it is a sincere product that was probably the victim of budget cuts or scope reductions or, you know, any of the normal things that give you a 6+ level dungeon of killing urns over and over, right? But the idea that it might be intentionally fucking with the player is hilarious to me. It would be consistent with the game's humor style, right? But it's never done anything to suggest, like, you know, we're fucking with you on purpose. This is the first dungeon where it really feels like we know that this urn thing is stupid, and we're really gonna make you do it now for, like, a couple hours. Okage Shadow King is the equivalent of Andy Kaufman wrestling women. Like... It's a Kaizo JRPG. It's interesting because, like, something like Undertale, or not Undertale, Earthbound or Mother 3, which is definitely like an RPG satire, is dripping with signs of developer intent. Like, you know, you'll have like the dungeon where all of the bosses are obsessed with being the third strongest master of the whole, or like they'll like really build up this boss fight and talk about how it's going to be really, really hard, and you get in there and they only have 1 hit point and they die instantly. Like, that shit, you know, 100% is on purpose. Is there an enemy in Mother 3 that's like Worthless Man or something? That's just like yellow guy who's just like crying. Shit. Can I revive him? Okay. I gotta get to a safe point. I gotta start leaving my future Marstead notes. Future Marstead, you are still in this dungeon from the start of this episode. Haven't yet understood if Okage Shadow King is a surrealist masterpiece or not. But you're currently 6 floors into a dungeon that's nothing but milky urns. And your next session might continue to be that. I don't know if there's going to be a boss on the next floor. There might be another floor. You have not finished floor B6. There's still a couple urns you have to kill, I think, in the northeast and southeast corners, so check those. You can always climb up the stairs here to get back to the save point, which I'd recommend doing after each floor clear, because some of the enemies are nasty, and you could just die and lose all your progress. Make sure you review the notes in the Future Marstead text file from the previous episode. There's some stuff in there about things to buy in shops and what to do once this dungeon is complete. I thought that would be relevant today, but they're not, because we've just been killing milky urns for an hour. Negative Man, yeah. The strong one boss theme. I love that game. It brings me so much joy. Good luck, Future Marstead. May there be 20 more floors of this. I kind of look forward to it now.